what do you do to just stay positive and keep going?
One, I get a good night's sleep. Yes, that's all of you people out there that, like, if you have a bad day, I mean, you can see on my site there's survival strategies. Do a Google search, Debito.org and survival strategies, and you'll see what I do in particular to keep myself upbeat. One thing I don't do is drink. You know, I'm not the teetotaler, but I have a beer. But if I'm in a bad mood, I don't drink. I go to sleep. And every now and again, you gotta relax. Watch a Hollywood movie if that's what you want to do. Go out and get a pizza if that's what you really need. When you get tired, you know, respect that. Your body's telling you that you've got to take a break. Learn how to switch it off. I mean, some people I know cannot switch it off. They're always in professional mode. And, you know, do something that you really enjoy doing, that you feel good about. Makes you feel good about yourself after you're done. If that means exercise, if that means writing. For me, I'll do a lot of writing. I mean, it organizes my thoughts. Okay. Right. But the best thing for me in particular is the fact that, you know, I always have the satisfaction of saying I did something. When people write to me and say, hi, thanks, keep up the good work, I say, if anybody else feels that way, please send me a mail. I like it. Honest. I just say, yeah, it's all worth it after all.
Living in Japan, I get certain questions. I guess the one that I always use as an example is, can you use chopsticks?
Oh, that one.
And I've been using chopsticks since I was a little boy, eating food in America.
Yep.
And so it's interesting. But I mean, along those sort of lines, I mean, I'm sure you've heard tons of questions.
Oh,
like
sure,
that.
sure.
And I was just wondering if you could give us a little hint.
It still gives me the twitches, you see. Chopsticks. No, I don't get the food in chopsticks very often anymore, fortunately. One reason is because, you know, but if I go out in public, I mean, I'm going to dress a little bit nicer. Well, one thing, I'm middle-aged, you know, and I'm not going to walk around in shorts and a t-shirt if I can help it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, no, that's you're a bit younger. Enjoy it while you can, because once you're older, it's going to be like, hey, isn't it about time you grew up, sort of thing, right? So, you know, because of that precludes a lot of the questions. Obviously, people know that there's a little bit more to this person just on sight than the average, you know, white boy that walks in and orders a beer, right? But yes, when the chopsticks questions come up, yes, I'll admit that I find them to be a little irritating. It's like, can you use a knife and fork? Or do you know, when you go to the toilet, do you wipe afterwards? It's something that you can do. It's an innate ability. It's not supposed to be a skill, right?
Right.
So, does that get edited out?
Yeah.
When somebody does that to me, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll say, oh, arigato. Sometimes I'll say, mochiron. Sometimes I'll say, datte, knife to fork, motsukaeru janai minna. And, you know, like, can't you use a knife and fork too, sort of thing, right? But the questions are quite rare. Most of the questions I get are of the variety of, you know, where am I from? And I say Japan. And then Japan? Yeah, Japan. You get a couple of laughs and like, where in Japan? Oh, Sapporo. And, but where were you from originally? Well, I was born in the U.S. Oh, but you let the wheels in their head turn a couple of times. You know, I don't usually hang out in bars, so I don't have to deal with the drunk guys that are just like, yeah, well, you must be really popular with ladies. Don't get those anymore, because that's, you know, I don't leave myself in those situations. But when it's just casual conversation, a person trying to be friendly, that is basically how I separate my responses. If the person is just trying to make conversation and they don't know where to start, you have a tolerance for these sorts of questions, because it's just like saying nice weather, isn't it, right? If it's a person that is sort of like saying, you know, trying to show off in front of his friends, then you just sort of like say, you know, yeah, I don't like doing that, but you can tell by the nature of the interaction whether this person is really being serious
about you,
or trying to communicate in a way that is constructive or at least friendly, right? So let's. I mean, it's not every single interaction that involves those. How do we start something? You know, goes in that direction. But the fortunate thing is, once we're talking in Japanese and they start getting a little bit more adventurous with the words, and they realize every word they're taking, I'm absorbing and throwing back something that sounds reasonably articulate, then the conversation goes into a whole different tangent, and suddenly we're having a neat conversation about something really completely unrelated to anything to do with foreignness or outsiders. So, for you people out there, if you're worried that, God, is it always going to be like this? It's not. It will get better, I promise. Have faith. You guys remember Tama-chan?
So rings a bell.
I think some viewers out there remember Tama-chan. You can see it on my side, of course.
The seal.
You got it?
Okay.
Yes, the seal. Now, whenever I mention this to a Japanese audience, people start laughing. Laughing and laughing and laughing. That's precisely the reaction that we wanted. All right, first of all, who is Tama-chan? Tama-chan is a seal or sea lion, I forget which. It's basically a piece of pure pork fat sausage with whiskers and little flippers that decided to lounge on the shores of the Tamagawa River in Yokohama. And this is about 4 years ago, I think.
Maybe we'll have a clip.
Ooh.
I hope.
Okay, insert that. Okay. Well, so what happened is that this is a rather dark industrial area of Yokohama where this was, and the citizens really thought, gosh, there's a seal sitting there. Well, let's throw fish at it, you know? It's like, so that's exactly what they did, this being Japan, you know, Japan food, fish, seal, connect the dots. They started throwing clams and oysters and all sorts of great food at that seal. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go down there too and collect some of that, you know? Well, Kitaku, the Yokohama City decided to make this sea lion an honorary resident. They gave him a Jumihyo, a residency certificate. Now, where's the downside to this? There is no downside except for the fact that foreigners cannot have a Jumihyo. They are not officially residents because they're not officially citizens. Japan's the only country that I know of that actually requires citizenship for residency. Instead, you get something called a Gaikokujin Todoku Zumi Shomeisho. It's not a Jumihyo. And if you check on your Jumihyo, if you have a friend out there who has a foreign spouse, then ask them if you can see their Jumihyo just out of curiosity, because you'll see that they are not listed on that Jumihyo.
Yes.
The wife, for example, my Jumihyo, before I naturalized, my wife was on there, my children were on there, but I was not. I was an invisible resident, which made my family look like a parentless family, right? So how is this seal getting it and foreigners can't? So rather than, so what we did was we went and dressed up in seal costumes.
Really?
Put whiskers on. And we just like you with your oni thing, right? We sat there on the beach, on the seashore, patting our stomachs and saying, Gaikokujin ni mo Jumihyo wo, right? Give foreigners a Jumihyo too. The press loved it.
Really?
It was lapped up. It was in all the major newspapers. A lot of the television. We had at least 4 networks come down and interview us. It raised the awareness, and to this day, I mean, even if all you fans of Black Waido show out there, if you remember that show, it was even featured in Black Waido show, which is sort of like a late night piss take on all of the wide shows. And like he does a lot of North Korean stuff. Actually, takes North Korean broadcasts, and all of a sudden, in the middle of North Korean broadcasts, like put in Tama-chan. It's like, that's me, because here I am dressed in black with a little bather cap on, funny glasses and whiskers, and with my stomach it was perfect. And so to sit there and pat my stomach all day.
That's my favorite story so far because it's cosplay activism. That's great. I love that. That's great. Next time, Sailor Moon outfit.
Yes. Actually, we were going to do that for what was his name? Crayon Shin-chan also got an honorary certificate.
Oh, really?
In I think it's Kasukabe. Out in backwoods Tokyo. Well, we were about to do the same thing, but I couldn't go down. And other people, nobody really wanted to do that. They were tired. It was a bad time of the year.
Plus, they didn't want to show their butt.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Have you ever debated formally with government officials or with right-wing people? Have you ever actually had a formal debate?
Okay, in the sense that we're talking cameras and reporters and an audience, and but I haven't had anything quite so formalized as having, it's difficult to get people, to organize a debate of that degree.
Oh, okay.
But it does happen. But I haven't been invited to one of those yet. Nothing like a televised debate or anything like that. Well, here's hoping. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I've talked to plenty of right-wing people, of course.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, I walk into onsense and I talk to exclusionary places and say, "Why are you doing this?" sort of thing. And I just go in there, call me, hear them out, and say, "Okay, I understand." But then, and as a tip for your viewers, if you want to actually, I wouldn't say use the word confront, but to understand what's going on in the minds of people that exclude people, what you do is you go up and you talk to them, you see if you can get a moment with them, and always listen first. Do not go in there acting like the bull in the china shop and saying this. At least say, "Hi, can we talk about this? I mean, what's on your mind?" And hopefully get them down for a cup of coffee and say to them, you know, and then you slowly bring in just a couple of things to show them that these ideas in practice actually hurt people. You do something like that, you can actually, I'd say in about 30 to 40% of the cases where I've gone in there, been signs up, I've gotten them to take them down. Yeah, or I've translated the rules that they wanted into English for them and put them up there and said they took the signs down. That sort of stuff.
Okay. Let's talk about the future then. 5 or 10 years time.
Yes.
What do you see that can be realistically achieved through our current level of social activism?
That's a great question. It's difficult to make prognostications here because, you know, I don't remember who said this, but once you release an idea, it somehow lessens it. It's sometimes if you make a prediction, it doesn't come true. It's better for me just to take things as they come and enjoy the successes, but don't have too many goals for getting it done within a certain amount of time. Do I see a law being passed within my lifetime? Yes, definitely. Okay. That's it. That's the best answer I can give you, though, at this time.
Is there anything, like besides, okay, so we have a Japanese law that prohibits discrimination.
Yes.
Is something we're aiming for, right?
Yes.
Anything else that is necessary? Something you see that needs to happen?
Yes.
That should happen?
Yes, we have to have the Japanese government saying for now and for all time that foreigners are here for a reason, that they're residents in the society, that they're paying taxes, and they should be treated with dignity and respect. The Japanese government must stop saying foreigners are a bane, and they must also show that they're a boon, that they're doing good in this society too. The vast majority of people that do not have citizenship in this society, number one, are here doing good things. The majority, two, also speak Japanese. Number three, are here permanently. Let's acknowledge that and say, well, we brought them here, as a matter of fact. A lot of the Zainichis were brought over here during the war to do stuff. Most of the Brazilians were brought over here to work in factories to stop the hollowing out of Japanese industry. A lot of other people have come here on a lark, perhaps, but are staying on and still contributing to this society. Acknowledge the contributions, and that has to be done by people like Koizumi, by people like government ministers. Stop focusing only on the negative, because the vast minority, is that a word you can put together? The tiny minority of bad things that happen are unrepresentative, is something that must be made clear. Okay, are we still on?
Wow, your juice has changed.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Blink! Yes. Magic.